95% of all the games I play are from Japan. I just prefer the way they write characters, design gameplay, and especially the aesthetics. But every now and then I branch out and tap into the normie stuff. That usually happens when a game gets so much praise that I feel like I need to have an opinion on it. For example, Bioshock. The game gets jerked off to no end, so I eventually gave it a try. Didn't like it, but that's not always the case. Witcher 3 deserves all the love it gets, but you get my point. What does that have to do with Vampyr? Not too much honestly, because the game does not get a lot of positive attention. Or any attention in general. But it is in the very small niche of non-Japanese AA games, which made it pretty appealing to me. After years of having it lying around, I completed it and have some incredibly mixed feelings. Overall, I would say I like it, but when I think about why, it gets a bit tricky. The two most important categories for most people are gameplay and story, and I don't think Vampyr exceeds in either of them. I can't see a dude who just finished a 5-hour-long Doom Eternal Ultra Nightmare session enjoy the combat too much. On the other hand, the idiots who come from this creep saying "oui" won't be satisfied by this game either. I would say I'm a bit different though. I can get enjoyment from every aspect of a game. Like Persona 5, it's absolute dog shit, but the art style makes it somewhat enjoyable for me. Vampyr also does one thing so well that I can overlook all the bad stuff, for the most part. But before we get to that, let's take a look at every aspect of this game. The story begins with protagonist Jonathan Reed waking up in a mass grave and snacking on his sister because vampires and shit. He then gets hunted down until he encounters Edgar Swansea, who recognizes Jonathan as an incredibly successful doctor. Swansea takes him in and employs him in the Pembroke Hospital. That's the prologue. From here on out you can follow the story, interact with NPCs and explore the world. I haven't mentioned this yet, but this game was made by Don't Nod Entertainment, who are also responsible for Life is So Fucking Cringe, Please Kill Me Now. Just like in that game, you can make choices which supposedly change the outcome of the story, but not really. In the main story you can only influence the ending, which gets decided by how many people you feed on. The main decision making comes from the NPCs. You can kill them all, which is some nice freedom, but it doesn't really mean much. They all have zero relevancy to the story. You just decide whether you want to sit through the dialogue to get to the rewards or kill them to get to the rewards. The story and the NPCs feel really separated, almost like you're playing two different games. The NPCs also really disappointed me in the way that it feels like most of the stories are unfinished. Like Thelma here for example. She has a mental disease that makes her think she's a vampire, which is a pretty fun concept considering who Jonathan is. You could do a million cool things with that concept, and what do we get? A side quest where we have to stop vampire hunters who mistook her for a real vampire. That's all we get with her. Most NPCs just feel like they didn't get enough screen time. Of course, the colossal choices you make have to be important, so the game only has autosaves, so you can't redo stuff. That's what the game wants you to think therefore at least. But I have a theory. The reason for the autosaves is a different one. It's there so you won't get fucked by the constant crashing of this game. Holy shit. I usually don't care about performance problems, but there is a limit. Up till now, Drakengard 3 held the title for the worst optimized game I played, but the Vampyr yoinks that title easily. Drakengard 3 ran with an average of 18 FPS or something, which you can definitely criticize, but as long as I can play the game, I'm good. Vampyr does not give me that luxury. I shit you not, this game crashed a total of 31 times in the 20 hours of playtime I had, and the 30-second loading screen certainly didn't make the experience any better. The game also has constant frame drops and needs to load new areas, stopping you from playing even further. While we're on this topic, there's also this weird bug which dragged itself through the entire game. Every single time I exited the menu, I couldn't move forward. That lasts for around 2 seconds, and for the most part it's not too bothersome, but sometimes it does come with consequences. You get my point. This game is optimized like fucking ass. Not that good kind, unfortunately. Let's just move on to the story and writing. Unfortunately, the game doesn't shine there either. The story is just going for too much. It could have been a nice tale about a man coming to terms with his new life, but it drifts off into saving the world from a godlike creature that has been existing for centuries. And of course, Jonathan was chosen by some higher being. He also interacts with the most influential people in the country throughout the course of the game. Pretty disappointing, not gonna lie. Less is really more sometimes. The dialogue, on the other hand, is mostly written pretty well. Jonathan especially talks like a normal person would, for the most part, which I really appreciate. There's a problem though, and that is this disgusting dialogue wheel. Can we just get rid of that forever? It always sucks. Conversations can't feel natural because of that. It always feels like you're a detective asking questions instead of just talking to people, and it gets really bad sometimes. This year, for example, I am talking to Giselle Paxson and she mentions that she was friends with a guy named Jack. Because of that, I unlocked the option to ask her about Jack's death, and Jonathan talks like he found it out another way, like reading about it in a letter. Really weird thing that wouldn't happen if you had natural dialogue with no stupid choices. Also, every time you choose a line after discovering a hint, Jonathan puts on this crazy intimidating voice, and it's really strange. One second he's like, "I am sorry for the loss of your son, miss." Then you choose a hint line and he screams, "I know you have a ginormous dildo collection hidden in your bedroom, miss."
Why did he confess? Did you suspect something? Tell me about these demons Seymour needs your help to fight.
But it's more fun than anything else, so whatever. The NPCs are in 4 different districts and you have to get to those by foot. No fast travel. During your time in the world you'll encounter enemies. Not a lot of different ones, there's very little variety. Every chapter like 1 or 2 new enemy types get put into the pool, so it's really noticeable. But if your combat options are good enough, then it's something I can overlook. But yeah, that isn't the case here. You have 1 combo and a few special attacks. Leveling up mainly increases stats, so you're pretty limited. You get EXP by talking to people, discovering hints, doing side quests, main story, and some other minor stuff. But the biggest source is killing NPCs. Most people will naturally tend towards a pacifist playthrough but will suffer for it by being underleveled. That is a great idea. Now back to the combat. The game also does the stupid thing of sliding your attack towards the enemy, so just spamming attack ends up in damage most of the time. You have a blood gauge which fills up by breaking enemies' posture and then biting them. Every special move, including healing, requires blood, so that's a pretty good mechanic. Leads to a lot of in-the-moment decision making. Overall, I would compare this combat to the one in the original Nier. It feels alright and gets the job done, but you won't triple S your way to victory. Now let's get to what makes this game worth it. The exploration and atmosphere. The environments look great and are filled with a lot of detail. That creates some really great atmosphere. If you didn't like what you just saw, you're weird, alright? What immensely helps here is the fact that there's no minimap. That is another thing that should just be banned from video games in general. The game forces you to appreciate the beauty in front of you. I love Witcher 3, but I remember my eyes were glued to the top right of the screen, which is really stupid, especially in an open world game. While you're out there exploring, you might find stuff that is related to NPC quests that you haven't even started yet. For example, I found the scarf which is related to Christina, who I haven't even met at this point. Eventually I found her and gave her the scarf, which locked me out of getting hints with not just her, but also Clayton, the journalist. Like what? Why are you getting punished for exploring the world? You know, the best thing about this game? As you saw over the runtime of this video, it is so easy to hate on Vampyr. It is lacking in many fronts and runs like a PS1 game, but I just really like it for some reason. Exploring the world, slaughtering some vampire hunters to then randomly stumbling upon a new quest was just really fun. If you're a gaming journalist and your top 5 video games list looks something like this, then stay away. But if you can deal with some jank, okay, fuck that, a shit ton of jank, then maybe give this game a try. It's cheap and doesn't take long to finish. Okay, my script says that's it. I'll go back to being a weep now. Thanks for watching and peace out.